All right, we're here now to talk about arrays. So we talked about variables, and the most important thing to understand about a variable, I suppose, is that the variable it contains a singular piece of data. Okay, that's very important to know. The variable is going to contain a singular piece of data. So now that leads us to talk about arrays because sometimes we don't want to contain just one piece of data. Okay. Maybe sometimes we want to hold multiple pieces of data. If we come over here and we look at this Mad Lib story that I created, notice here I have um, two separate hobbies. I have listed hobby one and hobby two, DJing, collecting vinyl. Also, I have, a hockey team, a baseball team, and a basketball team. What if I wanted to combine those or put those items in all in the same container? Well, I can do that with an array. Anybody, come on, help me out. What does this represent right here? No one knows.
I would call it a list.
Yeah, it's a list of what?
Of strings.
Your variables.
Yeah, I mean a string. What are these strings? What is it? What is this? These are Carole King albums. Come on, y'all, get cultured. you you need some culture. This is Carole King's albums. It's part of her illustrious discography. Anyways, Carole King, give me $1. But no. So with an array, I can hold multiple pieces of data. So I can store a list of Carole King albums, as I've done right here. And you can see the syntax for an array, and let's put that in here in the comments. I still use the var keyword. Okay, that's not different. So I have var, and then I'm going to have the array name, whatever it is. My assignment operator, that doesn't change. What I need to do here is for an array, I store the items inside of square brackets. Okay. And so I'll put item one right here. And each item inside of the array is separated by a comma. So item two, item three, dot, dot, dot. And now this will go all the way to item n, or however many items it is. Okay. So this is the syntax for an array. The var keyword still use, we don't use the R keyword for array. We still use var. The name of the array, the assignment operator, and then square bracket, and then inside the square brackets you place your items inside of the array, and they are separated by commas. You see here, like the variable, we use the var keyword to initialize the array. Next, we state the array name followed by the assignment operator, and finally the items nested inside square brackets and separated by commas, like I just mentioned. Naming conventions are the same as with variables. In other words, meaning we can't use like special characters. Um, with arrays, the first letter is usually lowercase. You can use an underscore if you want to. You can use a $sign if you want to. Um, but here's an important point. In many cases, developers use plural nouns to signify that the container holds multiple items. So I wouldn't say, var album. I say var albums. Okay. And that helps to indicate that this is an array. All right. So let's create an array right here. We got, it's obvious right here, a list of Outcast albums. All right. So say var Outcast albums. Outcast, you're more than welcome to give me $1. Put in my square brackets. And when variable name, well, when the items get long, you can break it up and put it on separate lines, like what I'm doing right here. So I got Southern Playalistic. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Southern Playalistic, Cadillac, funky music. Next is ATLians. After ATLians came Aquemini. After Aquemini is my favorite, Stankonia. And then after that was Speaker Box and The Love Below. The one that got him all the awards and everything. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Shaking like a Polaroid picture. All right. So here we go. Everybody got this typed up? Okay, well, yeah. Let's get those fingers rolling. Okay, it's all right here. So here you see we have an array of Outkast albums. Real easy. Très facile. If you need, you can pause the video and then type it up and then continue with the lesson. Anyway, so just like I did with the variable or anything else, if I want to print this stuff out, like I said, console.log. As a matter of fact, let me show what Visual Studio Code allows us to do. I can just type log, and then I get all of these different suggestions, and I want to log to the console. I can see it right there. So I'm going to press down and then hit tab, and then the console.log pops up right there. So I'm going to log out Outkast albums. And when I go to my developer tools, let me refresh this baby. And here I see the array logged out. I can see here the number 5. Matter of fact, let me clear my console. What line did I do that on? Where are you? You're all the way over here. Let me move this down because I only want to see this information that we got. Come on. All right. Come back up and refresh. Okay, there we go. So when I look at the console and I see that the information is displayed, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. Okay. One, I can see the number 5 that tells me what does this 5 mean? Take a wild guess. What would that 5 represent? Correct. The number of items inside of the array. Okay. I can also, I have this little triangle here. When I click on it, and we'll look at this in just a minute, but it lists out each of the items and it has these numbers next to them. Also, I see length right here. Also, I see this prototype array. When I click on that, there's a whole lot more stuff in here. So let's look and see. Let's try to learn some stuff about that, what that all means. All right. But first, let's start off with these numbers that we have here. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we want to select certain items inside of the array, we need to use what's called bracket notation. This means that we notate the item in the array using square brackets. Here's an example here, Outkast albums, and then I have a square bracket, and inside I have something called index, and this index represents a particular item. All right. Next, we need to understand that items inside the array are what's called zero indexed. This means that we start counting the items with the number 0 as opposed to the number 1 in the way that we do with natural counting. Because, like when we're counting something regularly, we know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. However, with an array, arrays are 0 indexed. So that means the first item inside of the array, Southern Playalistic, has an index value, and that's what we refer to it as, an index value of 0. So if we wanted the album Equimini, we would notate it as such. Let's do that. Let's console. If I want to get Equimini, I wouldn't just simply say, console.log Equimini. That's boring. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I'm going to console.log Outkast albums and then create square brackets. Equimini is indexed at 0, 1, 2. So I put the number 2 right there. And now when I come over here and I refresh the browser there, I do get Equimini. Because Equimini is the third item in the array, it has an index value of 2. And again, we start counting at 0 and arrive at 2. And this works with any one of them. If I want to do Southern Playalistic, Outkast albums, and again, square brackets, and I would simply put 0. That's always going to represent the first item in the array. There it is. Okay. Questions about that? Right on. We keep it rolling. So as you can see here, inside the brackets, we can write any expression that evaluates to a number. So as long as it evaluates to a number, we can write any expression. For example, we can store a number in a container like we have here. I could say var2 gets the number 2. I can do the same thing, log out, Outkast albums, and I can pass in this variable 2. And when I do that, I get Equimini. Because what's happening? 2, the variable 2 is going to be evaluated. And when it is evaluated, it is the number 2. And so I'm saying Outkast albums index 2. And that's going to be Equimini. There you go. What happens if I did this? What if I did the string 2? What do you think would happen? What do you say? Nothing? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Amber? Probably get an error. Jangela, what'd you say?
We did it on the other one. I think it should still take you back to the attribute.
To the what? To the what? What?
To the second string.
Equimini? You mean?
No. Because it adds 1.
It'd be Equimini? That what you say? Let's see. Yep. I still get Equimini. Even though it's a string 2. Again, we talked about like type coercion. Okay. And so we know that the number 2 is equal to the string 2. We looked at it. That was like before we talked about the Boolean operators. So the number 2 is equal to the string 2. So in which case, this string 2 will still get read as the number 2 and is going to return the item with the index value of 2, which is equipment I. Correct. I could say, 4 divided by 2. And is inside those square brackets is going to evaluate that, return a value in its simplest form. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And so I'm still going to get equipment right there. So you see inside of these square brackets, you don't have to just put a number in there. I can store a variable. If that variable represents a number, then it will come back with an item. If, I have some kind of algebraic expression, it will return if it will return an item if that evaluates to something within the array. What happens? What do you think would happen if I did this? If I said Outkast album's false, what do you think would happen? Just an idea. Just a thought puzzle. Phone? It will come back as false. Let's see. Comes back as undefined. So we get nothing right there.
Is that because it's just that when you equate it to false, it's essentially erasing the fact that it exists?
No, because here again, inside the square brackets, it says we can write any expression that evaluates to a number. False is not going to evaluate to a number. True is not going to evaluate to a number. But that leads me to question, because we did what we console true plus true, and they gave us 2. So I wonder what would happen, and I don't know. I'm just trying this out for the first time. What would happen if I said true plus true? I wonder, will this evaluate to 2? In which case, return equipment I. Right here it says undefined. I refresh and I do get equipment I. Oh, what in the world? How does that happen? Because again, when I take true plus true, somehow it's like, hey, that's going to be 2 because true has, I guess, I don't know how to put it, how I would explain this, because it doesn't have a value of 1. I guess its binary value is 1. I don't guess that I know that. Its binary value is 1. So then I'm saying 1 plus 1, and that would equal 2. So weird. But anyways, we see that that works. I would never do this, but but you see that this can work. So it can be any expression so long as it evaluates to a number. Now, but that would lend itself to ask, or for me, I would ask this question: what if I did something like 4 divided by 3? What would happen here? We've kind of already seen. What do you think would happen? Because 4 divided by 3 is what?
It's undefined.
No, it's not undefined. It's 1 1/3. But this would return undefined if that's what you're saying. Yes, that would come back undefined because 4 divided by 3 is 1.33, blah, 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 blah. In which case, there's not an item here that has an index value of 1.333. All right. So that's why it returns undefined. Yes.
Are we able to put stuff in there that would make that that equation not be undefined?
4 divided by 3? No, we couldn't.
Okay. So
Yeah, that would be really weird. Yeah. Our index values are always they're going to be whole numbers. Not even just whole numbers. They're going to be whole positive integers. Okay, which means I can't do this right here unless they change something without my knowing. I can't say -2. Yeah, that comes back undefined. I will say this. and it's been some years since I've written in Python, but in Python this will work. It would start at the end of the string and go backwards. So it would find the item that is 2 places from the very last item in the array, or list is what they call it. So no, it has to be a well, not a positive whole number, because 0 is neither positive nor negative. Starting at 0, going up. So I guess a counting number, a whole positive number, something like that. You get what I'm saying. But anyways, so we could do that. So like here, I have 5 items in the array. So if I put the number 5 right here, what would happen?
It's gonna skip down and say speak about
It's gonna be the other one.
No, it's going to come back undefined, because again, 5, there are 5 items in the array, but we start counting with what?
oh, 0.
Yeah, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last item will have a value of 4 and not 5. That return speaker box level below. Very good, very good, very good. Let's look at updating items inside of an array, because we can update them just like we can with variables. We can update a variable. We can update an item inside of an array, and it can be updated by notating the item to be updated and given a new value. So let's do this right here. We got some scores right here. Let's see, go back. So I'm going to see right below here. I'm going to say var scores, and that's going to be an array. And I got 100, 93, and 88. So right here I have a list of scores. Let me move my clear down. All right. So here's my list of scores, and I want to update. I want to change this 93 to a 99. Okay. So on the pop quiz we had earlier today, Mary, first she scored 93, but then I changed and gave her a 99. So I would say scores, square bracket, 93 is indexed where? What is the index value of 93? Yeah, 1. It has an index value of 1, and I'm going to set it to 99.
100.
Correct. So let's console.log scores here. Matter of fact, I'm going to write to the string. I'm going to say scores, put a colon, comma, and then scores. And then I'm going to log it out again. Say scores, and then comma, and then scores, like so. Come over here and refresh. Get scores. And you see the first time is 193 and 88. And then the second time we updated that 93 to a 99. How do we do that again? We simply called the item using bracket notation. So I knew the second item in the array, I wanted to change that score to a 99. So I said scores 1, because that's its index value, and set it to 99. So you can update items inside of an array like so. Questions about that? All right. So let's move a little further. What if we want to update the entire array, not just an item inside the array? We want to update the entire array. Well, let's start off by looking at how we can add items to an array. Okay. Items can be added to an array. Let's look at this array. It's given here. These are who? Who are these guys? Hello? Yeah, they're the Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles. Oh, let's come up with a new song. All right, so let's do that. Let's say var Beatles square bracket John Lennon. I did spell right, is it? Yeah. Come here if it's Jon or John Lennon. Then who's next? George. And then Paul McCartney. And then old Ringo. All right. So here's my list of Beatles. John, George, Paul, and Ringo. So if I want to add an item inside of an array, I use something that is called the push method. And we will talk more about methods, okay? But we're going to use the push method. And what it does is it adds an item to the end of an array. And this is how it's done. We have the array, and I say dot push, open my parentheses, and then I place the item inside of the array. So let's try that right here. I want to add Billy Preston because he is considered the fifth Beatle. Why? Anybody? Anybody? No one? Because he's the only person outside of these four guys right here who has writing credits on any one of their songs. So Beatles.push. I'll say Beatles.push. And then I'm going to add Billy Preston. Like so. And what I'm going to do is before I push Billy Preston, I'm going to log out Beatles. And then afterwards, I'm going to log it out. So I'm logging out both times just so I can see what I get. Let me put this clear. Bring this clear down here. All right. So now when I look here, the first time I have John, George, Paul, and Ringo. And after I push Billy Preston, now you can see that it goes from 4 to 5. John, George, Paul, Ringo, and then Billy right here. So the item Billy Preston, it was added to the end of the string. So if I want to add, in the of the array rather. So if I ever want to add an item to the end of the array, I simply use the push method. Questions about that? Hey, what if we wanted to remove an item? Oh, thank you for asking. If we want to remove an item from the array, here's one way we can do it. We have what's called the pop method. In the pop method, we simply say the array dot pop and then open and close parentheses. Notice that we don't need to place an item inside the parentheses when using dot pop because it will know to remove the last item, whatever the last item is. So unlike here it would push, where we had to specify what item we're adding to the end of the array, with dot pop, we don't have to put anything in there because it knows what it's going to do is going to remove the last item in the array. So I can say Beatles.pop, and nothing goes inside the parentheses. And so if I can come back down here, I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna move this console down here after we pop it. And you can see here that here we have the array with Billy Preston, and now we have the array without Billy Preston. So push pop, push remove, push adds an item, excuse me, push will add an item to the beginning, to the end of an array. I'm messing this all the way up. Push adds an item to the end of the array. Pop removes the last item from the array. Let's go back to adding items to an array. So not only can we add an item to the end of the array, but we can also add an item to the beginning of the array. And to do that, we use what's called unshift. Okay, so if I come back over here to VS Code, I can say Beatles.unshift, and I'm going to put Billy Preston here to the very beginning of the array. And I'm going to come back over here and console Beatles after I unshift. And when I refresh, there you can see there's 4, but now here you can see that Billy Preston has been added to the beginning of the array. So push and unshift will both add an item to an array. Okay. And it just depends on whether you want this item to go at the beginning or at the end of the array. You could think about, say you have an online store, you sell some kind of product, okay, and you want, say, maybe your most recent item that you've been added to be the one that is displayed first, okay. So you have an array, and you'll say, hey, take this array, build out, this image and cards and, all this text and description of the product. Take that and display it on the browser. And so display them on the browser. And when you get a new item in, you say, okay, I want this item to be at the very top because this is our newest item. So then you can unshift that item, which will add it to the very beginning of the array, and it would get displayed first. Or you could just push it and put it at the very end. Okay. That all depends on what this array represents and what you want it to do. Okay. So here, again, I know that push will add an item to the end of the array. Unshift will add an item to the beginning of the array. So then if I want to remove an item from the beginning of an array, what would I use? I got push pop, I got unshift, and then I'd have shift. Yeah, not difficult at all. Likewise, we can remove the first item from an array. To do this, we use shift. So let's come back over here. We're just, doing all kinds of things to poor Billy Preston, rest his soul. Beatles.shift. And again, because I'm removing an item, the first item from the array, I don't have to specify which item I'm removing. Okay. I'm simply saying, hey, shift it. And let me come back over here and move that console down. And you see here, there's Billy Preston at the beginning of the array, and then you can see that he's been moved. So a lot of stuff going on with arrays, okay? First, we see, one, how to build out an array. Okay, using the var keyword, give the array a name. Usually, and I would strongly recommend that when it comes to naming, give your array a plural name. Okay, geese, meese, fish, fishes, sheeps. um, but you give your array a plural name. That will help you out a lot. Square brackets. Okay, when you see those square brackets, that should let you know, hey, this is an array. All right. And then you place each item in the array, and all your items are separated by commas. All right. And then to call an item to call an item from an array or to access it, we use what's called bracket notation. Bracket notation means it's notated by using brackets. We have the array name, Outcast Albums, and then square bracket, and then whatever index item we choose. And also, we know that now that we can put anything inside of the square brackets so long as it evaluates to a number, which is true plus true. That will work. We also know that we can update a single item from the array by calling that item or accessing that item and then assigning it a new value. Like we did right here. We said scores 1 and set it to 99. So that changed this 93 right here to 99 because this 93 has the index value of 1 and we set it to 99. And lastly, we looked at push, pop, shift, and unshift. Push adds an item to the end of the array. Pop removes the last item from an array. Unshift will add an item to the beginning of the array. And shift will remove the first item in an array. And I believe I'll stop this video on this note. When it comes to using push, pop, shift, and unshift, you want to be careful with that because we tend to not want to mutate our data set. Okay, that's very important. For example, say, I guess Instagram. Let's say they have an array of all the different accounts. This is massively large number of accounts that are on Instagram. Okay. Jangela gets a little too reckless on her Instagram, and so her account gets deactivated. Instagram is not going to just completely remove her data from the data set. Okay, so she would not get pushed or popped or anything. She doesn't get removed. And actually, it would require something a little different other than push or pop. But her data would not just get removed. Why would it not get removed? Because what if she tries to go back on there and create a new account? How would they know that it's her or not? They wouldn't. So they may set her account to deactivate it or suspend it. Maybe they'll do something like that, but it just wouldn't completely remove the data because they'll need to have that data set for the future. So 2 years later, when she tries to log back on, create a new account using the same, say, email address, they'll be like, no, not you. We know how you get down. You reckless. So yeah, we don't want to mutate the data set. There are other ways of updating arrays, and we'll look at that later on. But in some cases, push, pop, shift, and unshift are sufficient and it gets the job done just the way that you want it to. All right, so have at it. I would recommend that you kind of play with these some more. Just build some simple arrays. Build an array of, you and your siblings, or a list of your hobbies. Why you look like that? Like I'm not naming them anywhere. Like forget them. Oh, um, you know, it could be a list of, an array of automobiles that you have or have had or that you want. It could be a list of anything, okay? And then just practice, accessing the different items from the array. And then we're gonna do some more stuff with arrays, not this video, but later on.